My parents want me to give half my apartment to my adopted brother who made my childhood hell. I said no. I've been sitting on this for weeks now, going back and forth about whether I should even write it down. But I need to get this out of my head, and maybe, just maybe, someone out there will understand why I feel the way I do. Because my parents certainly don't. I'm 28 years old. I own a modest apartment that I bought 2 years ago after nearly a decade of working my way up from nothing. And my parents, the people who raised me, want me to give half of it to my adopted brother. The same person who spent 18 years making my life miserable while they watched and did nothing. Let me start from the beginning. The day everything changed. I was 10 years old when my parents sat me down at the kitchen table with serious expressions on their faces. My dad cleared his throat the way he always did when something big was coming, and my mom kept fidgeting with her coffee cup. "Son," my dad said, "how would you feel about having a brother?" I remember the excitement that flooded through me. I was an only child, and I'd spent years begging for a sibling. Someone to play video games with. Someone to share secrets with. Someone who would be on my team when my parents said no to something. "Really?" I asked, practically bouncing in my seat. "A brother? Like a baby?" My mom shook her head gently. "Not a baby, sweetheart. There's a boy at the group home where I volunteer. He's 13. He's been through a lot, and he needs a family. We've been talking about adopting him." 13. 3 years older than me. Even better, I thought. He could teach me things. He could protect me from the older kids at school who liked to pick on me. He could be my best friend. "Yes," I shouted. "Yes, please, can we?" My parents exchanged relieved smiles. They'd been worried I'd be jealous or resistant. Instead, I was already planning which of my toys I'd share with him, which video games we'd play together, how I'd introduce him to all my friends. I had no idea what was coming. The boy who arrived. He moved in 3 months later, after all the paperwork and home visits and interviews were finished. I'd spent those months preparing, cleaning out half my bookshelf for him, making a "Welcome Home Brother" sign with my mom, practicing being the best little brother anyone could ask for. The day he arrived, I was standing at the front door, bouncing on my heels with anticipation. The social worker's car pulled up, and out stepped a tall, lanky kid with dark hair and eyes that seemed to look through everything rather than at it. I ran to meet him. "Hi. I'm so excited you're here. Want to see my room? It's going to be your room too. I have video games and—" He walked past me like I wasn't there. My mom rushed forward, her arms open for a hug. He sidestepped her and headed straight into the house without a word. My dad put his hand on my shoulder. "Give him time," he said quietly. "He's been through a lot. He'll warm up." I believed him. I believed everyone who said those words over the next few months. Give him time. He's adjusting. He's been through trauma. Be patient. What I didn't understand at 10 years old was that some people don't warm up. Some people stay cold, and they use that coldness like a weapon against anyone who tries to get close. The first signs. The incidents started small. My favorite action figure, the one I'd saved my allowance for 3 months to buy, disappeared from my room. I tore through every drawer, every closet, every corner. Nothing. "Have you seen my action figure?" I asked him at dinner. He didn't look up from his plate. "No." 2 days later, I found it in the trash can outside, broken into pieces. When I showed my mom, tears streaming down my face, she sighed. "Honey, are you sure you didn't leave it somewhere? Maybe the dog got to it." "We don't have a dog." "Then maybe it fell and broke. Things like that happen. Don't be so dramatic." I looked at my brother across the table. He was watching me with a small smile on his face. The first real smile I'd seen from him since he arrived. That's when I knew. He wanted me to know it was him. He wanted me to see that smile. And he wanted me to understand that telling our parents would accomplish nothing. The pattern forms. Over the next few years, the incidents multiplied. Money disappeared from my piggy bank. Not all of it, just enough that I'd question whether I'd actually had as much as I thought. My homework assignments vanished the night before they were due. My bike got a flat tire. My favorite shirt ended up with bleach stains. And every single time I tried to tell my parents, the response was the same. "Are you sure it was him? You need to be more responsible with your things. He's still adjusting. Be patient. You're the biological son, you're more secure. You can handle more." That last one stuck with me. You can handle more. As if my job in this family was to be the punching bag so my brother could have a softer landing. As if my pain was less important because my childhood had been stable before he arrived. Meanwhile, he got more. More presents, to make up for lost years. More attention, because he needs extra support. More excuses for bad behavior, because of his trauma. I understood trauma. I really did. Even at 10, 11, 12 years old, I understood that he'd been through things I couldn't imagine. Foster homes. Group homes. Never knowing if he'd have a family. I wanted to be compassionate. I wanted to help him heal. But compassion has limits. And healing shouldn't come at the cost of destroying someone else. The school years. The bullying at school started when I was 12 and he was 15. He told everyone that our family had bought him like a pet. That I was a spoiled only child whose parents had purchased a brother because I was too pathetic to make real friends. The kids at school loved it. They repeated his words back to me in the hallways, in the cafeteria, on the bus. Did your mommy buy you a brother because no one else likes you? When I came home crying, my parents confronted him. For once, I thought, someone would believe me. Someone would protect me. I never said that, he told them, his face a mask of wounded innocence. I would never say something like that. He's making it up to get me in trouble. He's always been jealous that you love me more. My mom's face crumpled. Honey, she said to me, your brother wouldn't lie about something like this. Are you sure you didn't misunderstand? I stared at her. There are 20 kids who heard him say it. Kids exaggerate, my dad said. You probably misheard something and it got blown out of proportion. Now apologize to your brother for accusing him. I looked at my brother. He was smiling that same smile from years ago, the one that said he knew exactly what he was doing, and there was nothing I could do about it. I apologized. Update 1. The teenage years and my escape. The teenage years were worse. Much worse. He got bolder as we got older. Started taking my things openly, my video games, my clothes, my money, daring me to complain. When I did complain, my parents said, share with your brother, and don't be selfish. He learned that I was a safe target. No consequences ever came for him. Why would they? In my parents' eyes, he was the wounded bird they'd rescued, and I was the privileged biological son who had everything he never did. The fights got physical when I was 14. Nothing serious, a shove here, a punch to the shoulder there, but always when no one was watching. And always followed by his favorite tactic, provoking me until I reacted, then running to our parents to show them the scratch or bruise I'd given him in self-defense. Why would you hurt your brother? My mom would ask, her voice heavy with disappointment. He started it. That doesn't matter. You don't hit family. Except he wasn't family. Not really. Family protects each other. Family has each other's backs. He spent our entire shared childhood proving that he wanted what I had, not who I was. I stopped fighting back. I stopped complaining. I stopped expecting anything to change. Instead, I counted down the days until I could leave. At 18, I moved out. I had a part-time job at a grocery store and enough savings for the first month's rent on a studio apartment the size of a closet. It was the happiest day of my life. Don't you think you're being a little dramatic? My dad asked as I loaded my car. You could stay here, save money, go to a better college. I'm good, I said. And I drove away without looking back. Building my own life. I worked full-time while attending community college at night. I transferred to a 4-year school, graduated with a degree in finance, and clawed my way into an entry-level position at a firm that actually valued hard work. While I was building, my brother was not. He bounced from job to job, relationship to relationship, excuse to excuse. Nothing was ever his fault. His boss was always out to get him. His girlfriend was always too demanding. The world was always unfair to him. At 25, after his latest spectacular failure, something involving unpaid rent and an eviction notice, he moved back in with our parents. He's been there ever since. Still there at 31. And my parents still make excuses. He had a hard start. He's still finding himself. He just needs the right opportunity. They adopted him hoping for a bigger family. They got a bigger burden. And somehow, 18 years later, I was supposed to pay for their hopeful mistake with my apartment. My achievement. At 26, I did something I'd dreamed about for years. I bought an apartment. It wasn't much, $147,000 for a small 2-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy. But it was mine. Completely, entirely, legally mine. The first night I slept there, I cried. Not from sadness. From relief. This was the first thing in my life that my brother couldn't touch, couldn't take, couldn't ruin. These walls were mine. This space was mine. No one could break my things here. No one could steal from me. No one could gaslight me into believing I was the problem. I didn't tell my family for months. When I finally mentioned it during a phone call with my mom, just casually, "Oh, I bought a place," her response was telling. "That's nice," she said. Then, immediately, "Your brother is really struggling right now. He lost another job. Do you think you could send him a little money to help out?" Same pattern as always. My success was an afterthought. His failure was the main event. Update 2. The ambush. 3 weeks ago, my parents invited me to dinner. "Just family," my mom said on the phone. "We haven't all been together in too long." I should have known something was wrong when I walked in. My brother was there, obviously, he lives there, but there was something different in the air. My parents kept exchanging glances. They were nervous, rehearsed. And my brother, he was smirking. That same smile I'd seen 1,000 times growing up. The one that meant he'd already won, and I just didn't know it yet. We got through dinner somehow. The food tasted like cardboard in my mouth. Every second that passed, I could feel something building. A storm about to break. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "Son," he said, "we need to talk about family. About fairness." My stomach dropped. I knew what was coming. I just couldn't believe they'd actually say it. The demand. My mom took over, her voice thick with practiced emotion. "We raised you boys equally. Same love, same home, same opportunities. But life hasn't been equal for you both. You have an apartment, a career, stability. Your brother has struggled. He's had some setbacks," my dad added. "Things outside his control." My brother sat back in his chair, arms crossed, watching me with that infuriating smile still playing on his lips. "We think it's time for you to help balance things," my mom continued. "Add your brother's name to your apartment. 50-50. Brothers sharing, the way it should be." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The audacity of it. The absolute, mind-bending audacity. Then my brother spoke, his voice dripping with fake humility. "I'm not asking for charity," he said. "I just want what's fair. You got all the advantages, biological kid, stable childhood, years of memories I wasn't part of. I got the trauma and the catching up. This would even things out. He broke my things for years and I was told to share. He bullied me and I was told to understand. He stole from me and I was told to be generous. Now I was being told to give him half my apartment. The pattern never changed. Just the price. The history rewrite." I stared at them. All three of them. My parents with their expectant, hopeful faces. My brother with his smug satisfaction. "Equal," I finally said. "You think you raised us equally?" My mom nodded eagerly. "We tried so hard." "He broke my toys," I interrupted. "No consequences. That was. He stole from me. You told me to share." "We were trying to." "He bullied me at school. You said I was being dramatic. Now that's not." "He lied to get me in trouble. You believed him every time." I was standing now, though I didn't remember getting up. "He got extra presents to make up for his past. He got extra attention because he needed it. He got excuses for everything while I got blamed for reacting to his abuse." My voice cracked. "That's not equal. That's sacrificing one child for another. Mom said they raised us equally. Equal would have been consequences for him and protection for me. Instead, I got blamed for his behavior and he got excused for mine. That's not equal. That's sacrifice. And I was the offering." Update 3. The truth they won't accept. My parents looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Like I was speaking a language they'd never heard before. "That's not how it was," my mom said, her voice small and hurt. "You're exaggerating. You're remembering things wrong." "I'm stating facts," I replied. "Ask anyone who knew us growing up. Ask my teachers. Ask the neighbors. Ask anyone. Everyone saw it except you. You were so focused on saving him," I pointed at my brother, "that you forgot to protect me." My dad stood up, his face reddening. "We did our best. He needed more. He needed consequences," I cut him off. "He never got them. That's why he's 31, unemployed, and living with you. And now you want to give him half my apartment because you feel guilty about the monster you created." The word hung in the air. Monster. My brother's fake humility evaporated instantly. His face twisted into something ugly and familiar. "Monster," he spat. "I'm the monster. You had everything. Parents who wanted you, a home from birth, no foster care, no group homes, no wondering if anyone would ever love you. I had nothing and you had everything, and you're calling me the monster for wanting a piece of what you got." He said I had all the advantages. I had parents who forgot about me while they focused on him. I had a childhood spent being his target. I had years of therapy to undo the damage. Those aren't advantages. Those are survival costs. "I didn't get this apartment from having loving parents," I said, my voice cold and steady. "I got it from leaving. From working while you played victim. From building while you blamed everyone else. My apartment has nothing to do with my childhood. It has everything to do with choices I made as an adult." I paused, letting it sink in. Choices you never made. The guilt trip. My mom started crying. Real tears, the kind that used to make me cave every time as a kid. The kind that made me apologize for things I hadn't done, accept blame I didn't deserve, pretend everything was fine when it wasn't. "Not anymore. This family is falling apart," she sobbed. "I always dreamed of my boys being close, supporting each other. Instead, there's all this hatred." "I don't hate him," I said quietly. "I'm indifferent to him. There's a difference. He made my childhood miserable and you allowed it. I survived. I moved on. I built a life. Now you want me to hand him pieces of that life." I shook my head. "No. My apartment is mine. My success is mine. He can build his own. At 31, it's past time he started." He's 31. At some point, hard start becomes permanent excuse. At some point, finding himself becomes avoiding himself. At some point, parents have to stop blaming the past and start seeing the present. They never did. That's why he's still failing. And why they thought my apartment could fix it. My dad tried one last tactic, authority. "As your parents," he said, drawing himself up to his full height, "we're asking you to do this for the family." Dad said, "As your parents, we're asking you." They stopped being my parents when they made me his punching bag for 18 years. They became his parents only. I became the other kid in the house. Now they're adults I barely know, asking me for an apartment they didn't help me buy. Parenthood isn't just a title either. "As an adult who built something alone," I replied, "I'm saying no. You don't get to guilt me into fixing your failures. You adopted him. You raised him. You enabled him. The results are your responsibility, not mine. I'm not the family ATM. I'm not the family sacrifice. I'm a person who owes this man nothing." My brother lunged forward, fists clenched. "I'm your brother." They called him my brother. Brothers protect each other. Brothers have each other's backs. He spent 18 years attacking me and 13 years since then failing to become a person. That's not a brother. That's a title without any of the meaning. "You're someone my parents adopted who spent 18 years tormenting me," I said, stepping back toward the door. "Biology isn't the only thing that makes family. Neither is paperwork. Behavior matters. You never behaved like a brother. You behaved like an enemy." I grabbed my jacket from the hook. I owe enemies nothing. Update 4. The Departure and Aftermath. I walked out the door that night without looking back. No dramatic exit, no slamming doors. Just a quiet, final departure. My parents didn't call for weeks. The silence was deafening at first. I kept checking my phone, expecting, I don't know what. An apology. An acknowledgement. Some sign that they finally understood. Instead, when my mom finally reached out, it wasn't to apologize. It was to negotiate. "I've been thinking," she said carefully, "and maybe we were asking too much. What if it was just 25% of the apartment? A smaller share. More of a token of family unity." I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. A week later, a letter arrived. My brother's handwriting, or rather, what was clearly my parents' words written in his hand. It talked about fresh starts and brotherly love and putting the past behind us. It mentioned how much he'd grown and changed, how he was ready to be the brother I deserved. I threw it in the trash without finishing it. Then came the email from my dad. Long, rambling, full of phrases like family legacy, and what we hoped for when we adopted him, and the bond we always wanted you to share. I responded with one line, "You hoped wrong. That's not my fault and not my debt." Update 5. The Resolution. Months passed. Winter turned to spring, then summer. I lived my life. Went to work. Came home to my apartment. My apartment that remained entirely, completely mine. Sometimes I'd sit on my small balcony with a beer and just breathe. In and out. Feeling the peace of a space that belonged only to me. Eventually, my parents started reaching out for normal things. Holiday plans. Family photos. Updates about the garden my mom was growing. Surface-level stuff. Safe stuff. The apartment was never mentioned again. I heard through the grapevine, an aunt who couldn't help gossiping, that my brother had finally moved out of my parents' house. He'd found a girlfriend, apparently. Someone who had her own apartment and was willing to let him move in. Another enabler. Another soft landing. Another person who would eventually learn what I already knew. He would take and take until there was nothing left, and then he would blame them for not having more to give. My parents seemed relieved, according to my aunt. Lighter. I imagine they were. 18 years of funding his failures, of making excuses, of pouring everything into someone who never gave anything back. That's exhausting. They were 63 and 61 now. They wanted to retire, travel, enjoy their golden years without a 31-year-old permanent child weighing them down. I wondered if they ever connected the dots. If they ever realized that the same energy they'd spent on him could have gone toward actually having 2 children. Instead, they'd had 1 child they supported and 1 they sacrificed. But that kind of self-awareness would require acknowledging what they'd done. And they'd spent too many years convincing themselves they'd been good parents to both of us. The truth would shatter that story. So they'd keep believing the comfortable lie. And I'd keep living my uncomfortable truth. Final reflection. It's been a year now since that dinner. A year since they asked me to hand over half my life to someone who'd spent decades trying to destroy it. My relationship with my parents is cordial. We talk occasionally. They send pictures sometimes. I respond with brief, pleasant messages. Everything stays on the surface because going deeper would require confronting things none of us are ready to face. They'll never fully understand why I said no. They'll never fully see what they did. In their minds, they were loving parents who gave everything to 2 sons, and one of those sons inexplicably turned bitter and selfish. In my mind, they made a choice. Maybe not consciously, maybe not with malicious intent, but a choice nonetheless. They chose him. Over and over, for 18 years, they chose him. And now they're living with the consequences of that choice. A 31-year-old failure who can't function without someone to blame, and a biological son who loves them but will never fully trust them again. My brother is a stranger now. He always was, really. The adoption was supposed to give me a sibling, a companion, a lifelong friend. Instead, it gave me a cautionary tale about what happens when love isn't paired with accountability. People say, but he's your brother, like the word means something automatic. It doesn't. Brother is earned, not assigned. It's built through trust and protection and showing up. He did none of that. He spent our shared childhood proving he wanted what I had, not who I was. Now he's 31, still wanting what others have, still failing to build his own. They wanted me to give him half my apartment. Half of what I built while he destroyed. Half of my escape from him. The answer was no. The answer will always be no. Not because I'm selfish. Because I'm finally free. And I'm not handing pieces of my freedom to someone who spent 18 years trying to take everything else. The apartment stays mine. The life stays mine. The brother stays a stranger. Some families grow together. Ours just grew apart. I used to grieve that. Now I just accept it. Some things were broken before they started. You can't fix what was never whole. You can only build something new. That's what I did. That's what I'm keeping. That's enough. Last night, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom, just a picture of her garden, some tomatoes she's growing. Nothing important. Just connection. I sent back a thumbs up. This is our relationship now. Surface. Safe. Distant. And maybe, for the first time, that's okay. TLDR. My parents adopted a boy when I was 10. He spent 18 years making my life hell while they made excuses for him. Now they want me to give him half the apartment I bought with my own money. I said no. I'll always say no. Some things aren't about being fair. They're about being free.